is your favorite candy? Whatever it might be, there is a high chance that it contains red dye 40. Red dye 40 is a synthetic dye that is used in most common household foods. But there have been multiple studies showing that it has negative side effects. However, it's still used in our everyday foods, although there has been obvious studies showing the side effects of the dye in our foods. It is known to cause behavioral changes not only in children but in adults, which causes hypertension and inability to focus. This is dangerous not only for children that are going to school learning, but for adults in workplaces. I personally grew up in a country that limited synthetic products and other food regulations. Because of this, I wasn't exposed to as much red dye 40 when I was a child. But when I did visit America, where those regulations were more lifted and they were looser, I consumed more of it, and there was a noticeable difference in my own behavior. So this, my own experience, combined with the studies, are here to show you that you should not be consuming this red dye. And because of this, I think you should remove red dye 40 from your everyday foods. In my speech, I will be talking about what is the dye, what common foods it is in, the studies behind it showing the behavioral aspects, and other unhealthy and various health concerns containing the dye, overall proving why you should remove this dye from your everyday foods and remove it from your diet in total. First of all, what is red dye 40? It's a synthetic red dye that is used in most common foods that we eat in America. It's approved by the FDA, and in the FDA CFR Code of Federal Regulations Title 21, you can find a list of chemicals used in red dye 40. They have regulations on how it's used and what percentage of chemicals need to go in it. When you look at their website, most people would not know what these chemicals are without studying it further. Of course, this is normal for most foods that we contain, but this is really concerning when we talk about this dye specifically. Some of the common foods that the dye is in is cereal, pudding, candy, and sodas. More specifically, common foods like M&Ms, Fruity Pebbles, and Gatorade contain this red dye. Notice how most of the foods that contain red dye 40 are naturally unhealthy foods that people stay away from. Now that I mentioned the foods in the synthetic dye and how common these foods are and how much synthetic dye that most people naturally eat when they eat these foods, I can say why it's so concerning. There have been multiple studies on red dye 40 with showing the various health concerns connected to the dye. In the article Toxicology of Foods and Dyes, it talks about how red dye 40 is contaminated most of the time by benzene and other carcinogens. Carcinogens are normally linked to other diseases, such as cancer. Not only that, but they also have behavioral side effects. In the Cleveland Clinic article, Is Red Dye 40 Safe? It talks about the links of red dye 40 to behavioral side effects in children such as hypertension, ADHD. It also talks about how when you remove this from their diet, there has been improvements not only in their behavior but in their attention span. This is really helpful for students in particular, especially with their developing brains and when they go to school to learn, and people feed them these snacks that may or may not contain red dye 40, harming their learning aspects and their ability to focus. This could harm them in the long run. This could also be harmful to other people as adults if they contain this in their at work and their inability to focus, especially if you have a lot of red dye 40 in your diet, if you eat a lot of chips or drink a lot of Gatorades. As I mentioned before, I've had my own experiment with this dye, with how I lived a majority of my childhood staying away from the dyes and coming back consuming them, and my huge behavior change. Both of my parents are teachers, so they have They know how to spot changes within children in their behavior and their attention span. They try to have me do work during the summers, but I had a harder time doing this work as a child during the summers than I would during the rest of the year. The only difference, I was in a different place with a different diet. This combined with the study axis show how dangerous red dye 40 can be, not only to children and their development, but also their attention to other things in life. Multiple countries have just banned red dye 40. Countries such as the United Kingdom, it is not allowed to have products with red dye 40 in it. Other countries require a warning to be put on the product if it contains red dye 40 and other unsanctioned dyes that have shown studies of causing harmful behavioral aspects to their citizens. Although research has pointed out, although this is all happening, in America, red dye 40 is still approved by the FDA. Now that I've told you what is red dye, how common it is in your foods, in your everyday life, and the effect that it has, think about how it is still common every day in America and in your everyday foods. Although there's research showing the behavioral side effects of red dye 40 and other effects of red dye 40, it's still approved by the FDA. And because it's approved by the FDA, companies still use it, especially snack companies that are based in the United States going by FDA regulations. So, although most people know the dangers of red dye 40, they still consume it because it's in their common snack foods, in their everyday foods. Although it's in your everyday foods, not only have there been multiple studies, but countries have taken the steps to ban red dye 40. You should take the steps to remove it from your diet. As I mentioned before, red dye 40 is mostly in unhealthy foods. This will not only help improve your health overall by removing these snack foods and these unhealthy foods from your diet, but also it will double as removing these red dyes from your diet as well. Some companies have taken the steps to remove red dye 40 from their ingredients list, such as Skittles. They have started to remove red dye 40 from most of their products and foods. Of course, other companies say that this will cost too much money and damage to their own branding to remove these red dyes from their food, but I will bring up another point, citing that in other countries that disapprove of red dye 40 or bans it outright, they still sell products in those countries. They already have an alternate ingredient list to make these same products without the red dye to sell in these other countries. Why can't they do it in the United States? Why aren't they improving your health by removing these red dyes? After hearing about what is red dye, what common food it is in, how it affects you, and the studies behind it, you should try to remove red dye 40 from your everyday diet. Not only for your overall health, but for the health of people you might know. Red dye 40 is in most unhealthy foods, and it has shown negative effects not only on your mental stimulation, but in your everyday life. If you have problems focusing, you might want to try removing red dye 40 from your everyday diet. You might want to attempt removing red dye 40 from your everyday life. Not only have the effects been negative, not only have multiple governing countries removed red dye 40 from their countries in total, but there has been visible side effects and testimonies from multiple other people showing the negative effects of red dye 40. All in all, red dye 40 is something that should be removed from your diet. Not only for yourself, but also for your children, for your partners, and for other people you might know. And if you yourself cannot afford to remove red dye 40 from your everyday life, relying on these common snacks, go to your governments, demand that they remove red dye 40 or ban it from the everyday foods. There's procedures you can go through to get this removed. It is dangerous, not only in what products it contains, but also how it can affect you in your everyday life. So, when you think about it, what is your favorite candy? Think about what is in it. Think about how it could affect you in your long run. Thank you.